In the wildly successful Toy Story franchise, Disney and Pixar have established a world based entirely around the joys of childhood and the lingering nostalgia for it once we grow up. Playrooms, vivid imaginations, and our favorite toys all come together to make for some of the most cherished memories of simpler times. Truly, the continued love of the Toy Story movies is a testament to the fact that we never stop being a kid inside. But despite this sense of wonderment and congenial charm, there is also a dark underbelly to the Toy Story world, one where it doesn't shy away from the darker elements of childhood. From amputations to mad science that would put the human centipede to shame, Channel Frederator is counting down the 12 times Toy Story got too serious. Let's get started. Number 1. Sid's Toys. Few characters in the Toy Story universe encapsulate pure pubescent evil better than Andy's next-door neighbor, Sid. Sid's idea of playtime goes beyond being rough and straight into horror movie territory. The little Dr. Frankenstein cuts off the heads of his sister's beloved doll and gruesomely performs a head transplant onto a pterodactyl. And that's just the beginning of Sid's toy hell. His finished subjects could provide younger viewers with nightmare fuel for weeks. Toy parts crudely stitched together, baby doll heads on mechanical spider legs, but the fact that the creatures, rather than being evil monsters, are humanized as victims who are shy with kind hearts and a deep sadness towards their condition. We quickly learn the valuable lesson that appearances don't reflect the content of the personality beneath them. Sid himself is a reminder of how one evil force can ruin innocent lives. Though in the process, we're treated to one of the funniest lines in the entire series. Buzz witnesses this and offers, "I don't believe this man has ever been to medical school." Thanks, Buzz. Number 2, where's Bo Peep? In the first film, Woody and Bo Peep have quite the adorable, flirtation-driven little romance. However, she's barely in the next film and is conspicuously missing from the third. All we know is that Woody has remorse that the crew has lost friends along the way. Bo Peep's disappearance is a huge mystery, and it's probably safe to assume that, as a rather feminine toy, the maturing Andy became embarrassed and gave her away. But thinking of the situation from Woody and Bo's perspective, your lover is suddenly shipped away without your consent, and you will probably never see them again. Imagine the agonizing heartbreak and emptiness that would cause. It's like something out of a tragic war film, or dare we say it, real life? It's certainly a departure from the happily ever after love stories that Disney is famous for, but fans might have some consolation knowing that the upcoming Toy Story 4 will focus on the relationship between Woody and Bo. Number 3, Woody's interrogation. Sid's hobby of toy abuse has no limits in its brutality, as Woody is unfortunate enough to find out. While playing with our favorite cowboy, Sid tosses Woody around before pulling out a magnifying glass and attempting to burn holes in him, just like some kids burn ants, which is also a terrible thing to do. This scene also points out that the toys never go totally inanimate. Woody feels every second of this. Imagine how painful Sid's torture must have been. Plus, most torture victims can scream out in pain, but Woody doesn't even get that luxury. I bet you have some serious respect for this cowboy now, don't you? Number 4, the toys' revenge on Sid. Let's not forget that the young psychopath also gets what's coming to him. In an attempt to rescue Buzz, Woody and Sid's creations team up to reveal their secret world, hopefully scaring him away from damaging toys forever, while also probably starting Sid on a long journey of professional therapy. Because as delicious as this revenge is, and as horrible as Sid behaves, let's not forget that he's still just a kid. One can only imagine the kind of psychological imprint it would leave if suddenly our toys came to life and started to attack you. After all, the idea is objectively so horrifying that multiple horror films have been developed around it, like Child's Play or Annabelle. So while it's great to see Sid get what he deserves, let's not forget the legitimate trauma that revenge induced. But oh, that crackly teenage scream is glorious. Number 5, Woody's nightmare. In Toy Story 2, Woody has a vivid nightmare about being rejected by Andy for having a torn arm. This scene is a rather intense look into Woody's psyche and at how the self-imposed fear of being less than perfect can easily snowball into a fear of rejection by a loved one. Woody is so worried that his arm makes him undesirable that he imagines Andy throwing him out forever because of it. It's definitely worth noting that Woody's projection of Andy says Woody is broken, while in reality his arm is just a little torn and can be easily mended. Woody places so much pressure on himself to be the perfect leader that his self-image is incredibly warped and his anxieties easily go through the roof. This is actually a super identifiable situation, well, for adults at least. If any kids are watching, you'll know one day, and I'm really sorry about that. Number 6, the fascination with amputation. Speaking of Woody's nightmare, the sequence introduces the beginnings of a tear in the fabric of Woody's shoulder. When Woody is moved from a display case by a collector, a thread on his arm pulls, unraveling so painfully slow and eventually ripping the limb from his body. Now, when an arm comes off of a toy, we get fabric and stuffing coming out, and granted, a human limb can't become detached from a caught thread, but the parallels to blood and veins are definitely so present in this scene. And remember, Woody is feeling this pain the whole time, but must remain completely still and dead-eyed while part of his body is being ripped off. This isn't even the series' only instance of amputation. For example, when Buzz learns he's a toy, he falls and breaks his arm off. Or when Rex's tail gets disconnected in the caterpillar room, or well, I guess Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head's limbs are supposed to come off, but these sequences serve as reminders that the toys aren't exactly immortal, and are in fact susceptible to injury, or worse. Number 7, you're out of your box. Sometimes there's that one guy or gal that selfishly ruins everyone else's life for his own or her own gain. In Toy Story 2, that guy was nearly the prospector who had played the role of the kindly oldster until he revealed himself to be deliberately sabotaging Woody's reunion with Andy so that he could get what he wanted. Then again, one can easily argue that the prospector's cold-hearted behavior is not really his fault. After all, he's never been taken out of the box and played with, so he's been hardened by rejection and no appropriate lens to understand what a joy a relationship like that can be. This unfortunate lack of fulfillment of his basic function as a toy is no more his fault than, let's say, Rex's fault for his tiny hands. At what point can we truly blame someone for their behavior when how they act is affected by pure circumstance? Number 8, the totalitarian state of Sunnyside daycare. In Toy Story 3, the action is moved to Sunnyside Daycare when the toys are accidentally donated. Despite the pastel colors and cheerful sounding name, Sunnyside is closer to a totalitarian state than some kind of pleasant retirement home for toys. Run with an iron paw by the equally first impression defying Lotso-Huggin bear, Sunnyside is actually the epitome of an unfair government where new toys are sacrificed to rough play with toddlers, while those Lotso deems worthy are treated to the toy heaven of the butterfly room, and promotion seems unlikely at best. If this wasn't enough, the lower class toys must endure the night alone in their prison cells. Anyone who revolts is sent to the box to spend the night amongst the sand and Lincoln logs. Suddenly, Sunnyside seems an awful lot like Pixar's statement on corrupt government and living in a police state. Furthermore, the fact that Lotso's deceivingly friendly exterior serves as a reminder to be wary of trusting a leader at face value. And you know, it is an election year, so maybe that's not such a bad lesson. Number 9, Lotso's fate. Chained to the hood of a car by an unruly motorist barreling through an unforgiving landscape with only terror ahead. Am I describing the opening of Mad Max Fury Road? Well, yes, but the same description also applies to Lotso-Huggin Bear's grisly fate in Toy Story 3. No pun intended. After breaking free of Sunnyside Daycare, Lotso is picked up on the side of the road by an enthusiastic garbage man who proudly ties the strawberry-scented bear to the grill of his truck, forever sentencing him to high-pressure winds, intense weather, and all kinds of bugs in the face, without the ability to pick them off or even get up and stretch his legs. Number 10, terror of toddlers. There's a moment in every Godzilla or giant monster movie where the citizens of an ordinary world can only look on in horror as a giant being of pure chaos rampages through the land, powerless to stop it. Although the daycare in Toy Story is a world away from Pacific Rim, when the toddlers burst through those doors, it's not hard to draw that comparison. We all know that toddlers are beings of pure destructive energy, but the gang in Toy Story were quite privileged in their interactions with children up until now. But beyond just mirroring a cringe-worthy violent ravaging of Tokyo, this scene has a profound layer of melancholy because Rex is just so excited to be played with. Rex, Buzz, and the rest believe that for a moment, they are going to feel just as happy and fulfilled as they did at Andy's, only for this hope to be brutally and literally torn apart. They begin to suspect that the golden years are over, and as a child watching the film, it's rough to realize that the eras are coming to an end. Number 11, growing up and bad things happening. An ongoing theme in the Toy Story films is the difficulties inherent in simply growing up, and how relationships inevitably change over time. Pixar approaches this theme again with Bing Bong and Inside Out with the same heartbreaking outcome. Andy, Emily, and Daisy aren't bad people for abandoning their toys. On the contrary, the fact that they have loved their toys so thoroughly says exactly the opposite. Toy Story taught us again and again that sometimes bad things just happen, often as a necessary effect of the passage of time, but in Lotso's case, sometimes as a faultless accident. This may be the most sophisticated and solemn of all the lessons in the films. Through Woody, Buzz, and the gang, we learn that living a full life includes incurring losses you may have to move on from. Some people deal with it well, others don't, and some let it affect them for the rest of their days. But hey, remember that time Buzz was restarted, only speaking Spanish? Yeah, that was funny. And finally, number 12, the incinerator scene. This is perhaps the first time in Disney history I was truly convinced that a protagonist that wasn't someone's mother or father was about to die. Seeing our heroes fight in vain against a slow descent into a hellish fire that was reminiscent of Mordor was bad enough. But the real reason this scene is arguably the darkest moment in Disney history is when Jessie looks at Buzz and screams, "What do we do?" Buzz enacts the most heroic gesture possible in the situation to look her straight in the eye and give her his hand in submission of death. Because dying together is better than frantically struggling and dying alone. And so we watch these characters we've grown up with over the course of 3 movies hold hands in solidarity, each individually contemplating the imminence of sure death. It's like all my life's regrets are welling up as tears in my eyes. Oh man. Okay, I'm okay. Alright, thank you so much for watching the 12 times that Toy Story got a little too real. If you like this video, be sure to check out our 107 facts about Toy Story, or you can watch our list of the Pixar characters that we think deserve their own spin-off movie. Also, just so you all know, Channel Frederator will be starting a new schedule this week. So every Wednesday you can check out this channel for an all-new tuned up list. On Thursdays we'll have an all-new cartoon conspiracy, and every Friday we'll have an all-new 107 facts you should know. We'll still be doing Saturday morning cartoons each and every week, but we'll also be adding an all-new tuned up list to the Saturday schedule. And meanwhile, over on Cartoon Hangover, we'll be posting an all-new 107 facts video every Tuesday. So enjoy our new programming schedule, don't forget to subscribe, and remember, Frederator loves you.